Okay, so I shot some high school football this evening, and I shot about a quarter and a half at Nestucca and about a quarter and a half at Tillamook. I'm downloading photos for Tillamook, but I've already selected photos for Nestucca. Um, it's been a few years since I've shot American football, and in that time frame, Nestucca got a new track and a new field. Um, their facility used to be a football field, track and field, baseball, softball, you name it. And that has been renovated where it's strictly a soccer field, football field, and with a traditional oval track. The track used to be a egg shaped. It was really weird. It was still technically legal under track and field regulations, but it was just awkward. Anyway, it looks nice. New scoreboard you'll see over here in the background. That's new. So they built a facility sports complex at the K through 8 school, which is down the road a little ways. And so I'm assuming that's where baseball and softball will play. I find shooting American football very frustrating. Um, it's just hard to track and figure out where the ball's going, and so I try to get a lot of, just so that the kids can get photos of them playing. I do try to get a lot of the stuff at the line of scrimmage, at least. And then this is awkward, just with the sun. I mean, shooting under the lights is hard too, but when you've got the mix of the shadow and the sun is kind of weird. Okay. Let's see. I don't know how they shoot professionally or they can stage as a photographer. Um, I know when I did photography at a MLS game, you were pretty much restricted to the end lines or up to 18 yards on the sidelines, and you could only stay on one end of the field. You could switch at halftime, but yeah, you couldn't wander up and down the field. So I'm assuming the same for NFL or CFL, but where I live, it's a really small community, and then I've got a media pass, and it's pretty much just stay out of the way is what they generally ask where I'm at. Also helps that people know who I am and just kind of leave me alone. It is a really nice scoreboard. Um, I know paying for sports can be kind of a touchy subject, but there's not a lot going on in South County, and I really think this is a good thing that they were able to upgrade their facilities. Um, Provides a better opportunity for the kids, not just athletic program, but for PE and the sorts. Here we go. Okay. I got a few good action shots here. Okay, there. This is one of the downfalls, is I'm shooting between a ref and a ball boy, and on the track, so I'm not on the grass at all. But I do have to be aware of the team on the sidelines in their box that they are allowed to be in. And if they get in my way, oh well, that's not something I really worry about. Mr. Quarterback, sir. Oh, water jug. Oh. I shot these with a Canon R5. It has a really high megapixel count. Oh, I kind of take advantage of that to zoom in. There were 2 football games today. One, South County, Nestucca, and another Central County, Tillamook, and I did hit up both. Next week, Neocony, North County, and Tillamook, Central County have games. I'll try to hit up both, but I'm not sure. I may just try to get Neocony. It's kind of rough. I do this all by myself, so. But Neocony, and they haven't had a football team since 2019, like full season varsity football. They on and off again struggled to field football. It's kind of blurry. Their volleyball team, though, is very robust this year. I have not been able to make it to a Neocony volleyball game yet. They had one last week, I think it was, last Thursday, and I unfortunately could not make it because I was on a job site. But I'm hoping to get there to get some volleyball photos. Light chip. What? Okay, sorry, I don't have the chat up. Juanita Cow, huh? Hey, buddy. Yes, I am an in real life friend. Yes, I got the chat up now. Yes, thank you. Hi. Hi, guys. I'm exhausted. I know, I'm very exciting with football. This is a 2A. Is it 2A? Yes. Nestucca and Gervais are 2A, which, and where you guys live would be equivalent to 2B, roughly. 2B school. So pretty small. Oregon has 6 classifications, 1A through 6A. Nestucca is very clearly in the 2A. Neocony up north bounces back and forth between 2 and 3, depending on the year, and then, or every 2 years, and then Tillamook is firmly in 4A. Tillamook football came in second for 4A last year for football. And meanwhile, Nestucca track is a very successful program. Yeah, small school. God. So, my hubby went to Neocani, and we always kind of joke, the school I went to. When we first started dating, he was very confused as to why I didn't know everybody in my school. And I had to explain to him there were more people in my graduating class than there were in his whole 7 through 12 senior high school. So, definitely cultural experience, and it's the same thing with Nestucca. I think they have like 30 students in each graduating class, roughly. So the high school is a true high school, grades 9 through 12, so about 120 students. I am still hungry. Do you think I could get my hubby to make me more food? I ate about noon today, and then I ran off to do sports, forgetting to eat. I grabbed a cheap, tiny hot dog at the football game, and that did not fill me up. Yes, Juanita Cow, we were talking about food again, apparently. Ooh, he looks thrilled. Also, if anyone wants to get me another, like a Canon R3 or a Canon R5, that'd be great. Shot this with an R5, and I love that camera even more. Yeah, pretty much one class per grade. I can't fathom that at all. I don't know how to imagine going to a school where, everybody, literally everybody in your school. I don't grasp it. It's crazy. Oh, good, you got your eyes open. What are you looking at, kid? Okay. Anyway, the nice thing about the R5 is the megapixels. I can really zoom in on stuff. Whew. Nestucca, when I left, because I left in the second quarter, Nestucca was down. Gervais was definitely the more dominant team while I was there. That's not to say Nestucca didn't pull an upset. I actually may be able to pull that up, but let me see. Okay, why is this doing this? It's showing me last year's stuff. I want football. And then the 2A. Yeah, this was a non-league game. Oh boy, that was... Oh, poor Nestucca. Game ended up being 42-0 Gervais. What are the photos for? Just for shits and giggles, basically. I kind of miss shooting sports, so I made I don't want to say a fake news. It's not fake news, but a front for photography. Um, the county newspaper absolutely sucks, and these poor kids weren't getting any coverage of their activities, whether it was drama or music or dance or sports. And so I started in 2016, and through 2020, I would go to events, take photos, and post them so that they could get some recognition for what they do. And then I had to stop for a few years because of work interfered, and I've been able to start back up this year. And they really like it, so I try my best to do for them. I don't get paid doing it, so it's kind of have to remind them that it's at a whim on whether or not I can make it or afford to do it or whatever. Um, so um, but yeah, yeah, it's interesting. And excuse me, oh God, that is, it's got me some jobs. Um, I've gotten some portrait shot shoots out of it. Um, yeah, I've got some portrait shots. Somebody found me doing this to actually do some real estate photography work as well, oddly enough. So, um, I kind of see it as a way to, get out and do stuff. So, yeah. That girl has really pink hair. This school is really tiny, and when I walked in and I saw their cheer squad, I was shocked. Cheer squad is huge. Smallest school in the county, and they've got the biggest cheer squad. So, Tillamook has like 3 cheerleaders, I think. 4, maybe. I was like, what the heck? And they're the biggest school. Okay, back to football. Yeah. Anyway, it is kind of nice, athletic wise. All the schools now are all caught up on like a proper track and field, proper fielding that isn't all beat to all smithereens. So, I don't, I haven't done running in forever, but running on a poorly maintained track or field it hurts. So, yeah, yeah, definitely barely a squad. Um, it's really weird. Um, I mean, they're smaller schools. I mean, Tillamook's barely a 4A, but yeah, it's weird. Some years, just the fluctuation in in size of athletic rosters, cheer rosters, band. It's really interesting how much they fluctuate. I mean, pretty much the schools here, I mean, if you show up for a sports team, you get to play. I just remember us growing up, if you wanted to show up for a sports team, they would cut. There were cuts. So many students tried out. is being weird. Ooh, man. I don't know. Oh, that's fuzzy. Too bad. Okay, well, this one is better. Kind of. It's still fuzzy, but better. I have no energy. I am just beat. Yesterday was such a long day, and then, yeah. Um, I need like a athletic trainer thing on my phone that, for shooting sports, football or American football or soccer. God, I don't know how many 100 meters I walked yesterday and today, going back and forth, taking photos and carrying a heavy lens and I definitely have not been doing sports photography in a while. I can feel it in my arms. And I don't even have one of those big fancy lenses that sports photographers do. You got cut from jazz band? How do you manage that? Well, I guess jazz band you tried out. I guess if I remember correctly when I went to school. I did not play in jazz band. I wanted to play the saxophone. My parents bought me a piano instead. Um, so, anyway, I played piano. Which I guess you could play piano in jazz band, but I was not that good. I can play like one song now, and that's it. Oh, look, a football. There is a cross country meet tomorrow, and it's like middle school, high school, JV, varsity, adults, beginners, and it's. I kind of feel like I should go shoot it to give them some representation, but just where it's going to be, there's no parking, and it's shooting cross country is boring. Like, oh look, somebody's running. Track and field's a little more fun. I usually get a lot of stuff with hurdles and then the fielding events. One thing that disappoints me is I don't know if they do it in Washington track, but they do not do the hammer throw here. Yes. Yes, pianos are hard to travel with. And yeah, the field is more fun. The hurdles, I love the 100 meter for men. What? I don't remember which one's which. So one of the genders is 100 meters, the other is 110. Anyways, the one where it's just straight stretch sprint hurdles, I love shooting those from the finish line. They're pretty. They are so much fun to shoot. So. Sprints. Some of the sprints can be pretty intense, especially at the finish line. But like the longer distances are kind of hard to be motivated to shoot. I do try to get photos of them now. Because a lot of the cross country kids run the distance runs in track, the 5K, 3,000 meter, 5,000 meter, or whatever. I really like shooting the pole vault. That one's fun as well. Although they're kind of the pole vaulters here at the don't go very high. It's definitely very amateur level, but it's still really cool. I don't think the kids here get exposed to pole vault until high school, so I think that's why. Yes, they do. Um, oh man. Hmm. Anyway, I'm hoping to improve some of my football stuff this year. I haven't shot football in forever, and it's kind of hard. I mean, I know that I don't know how to describe it. It's not easy to shoot with all the shenanigans going on. These girls look thrilled, don't they? They're probably long week, long day, just starting back up at school. Um, yeah. I guess I could send some of these to Jay. I need a faster shutter speed, apparently. Oh, they also put in new field posts. Oh my god, I wish I could find a photo of their old field goals. They were pretty. It was bad. They were bad. They looked like drunk hillbilly field goals. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. If I end up crashing here or if I keep editing photos. Don't have too much fun. Thanks for the raid. Football. Glad to see kids are still getting involved and stuff. Okay. Whew. Do-do-do-do-do. Oh man, I took too many photos. I turned on the electronic shutter on my camera, which allows me to take 20 frames per second. And that was a mistake. Because you just barely touch the shutter button, and all of a sudden you've taken 10 gazillion photos. It's really ridiculous. The R3, which has less megapixels, but has a much more robust frames per second. I think they have a software update for it that makes it so you can do like 100 frames per second. I was just like, holy cow. So, Looks like we're having a little party here. Alright. How are we doing on the oop, my Tillamook photos are done downloading. Sweet. I can close that up. Anyway, oops. Yes, I want to zoom in a little bit. Okay. Oh boy. I'm not even halfway there. Oh, there's the ball handler. Man, I cannot believe they lost 42-0. That's painful. Those poor kids. That's like demoralizing. I mean, it's one thing to lose, but then just to get stomped. Oh man. It wasn't like they were playing a 3A or 4A or anything. Gervais is a 2A as well. Sometimes 3A and 2A or something will play. Like Nesteka and Niakani will play each other later this season. It's just kind of a traditional thing that they've always played each other, but maybe first game or two of the season you'll play up or down. Generally 2A won't play 1A in Oregon because 1A plays either as a 6-man or 8-man football, depending on the size of the 1A school. But it's not uncommon for 2 through 6 to play one up or down. And then, I don't know if you notice at this level, kicking is not a skill a lot of the teams have. So usually they play for the 2-point conversion instead of the extra point. Oh, golly, gee, George. Gervais. I'll probably have to tag them in this if they have a page. I'm sure they'd like to see some of these. There's a Nesteka player there. Never been really an American football fan. And the irony is my husband played American football growing up. He was on the varsity team in high school. What? What are you laughing at? Hi, Bill.
Nothing.
Okay. When I was in high school, I dated a guy. I've dated guys that were cross country on the swim team, but didn't date football players. Band. With guys that were in band. One guy dated, played the saxophone. Another guy I dated played the trombone. I was in drama club and played soccer. And journalism. I do not want to turn off my Wi-Fi. Okay. Hey there, guys. Oh, man. So much fun taking photos, and then you could come back and edit the 10 gazillion. Oh, man. Do. Pig pile. I'll probably be back down here in this field in 2 weeks. I think it's their next home game. They're away next week. I don't even know where the ball. Oh, there's the ball, right there. Oh, more cheerleaders. Go team, go! It's good to see kids getting out and participating and stuff. Oh, there's you. Man. So, not really. I haven't really gotten any good, like, ball's way over here. I haven't gotten any, like, really good action, like, singled out somebody action shots, but oh, maybe that's not where the ball is. Oops. I don't know. Okay. Oh, anyway, let's focus on this guy because it looks cool. Okay. So, been using my 60 Mark II. That's what I had been using for sports. And it has a 6.5 frame per second. Rapid fire, I call it. And I always felt that was sufficient. Well, my R5 has made me feel inadequate when using my 60, which is kind of funny. So, I don't know. I don't have the money to upgrade, but I'd love to get another, like, R5 or R3 or something. Supposedly, rumor has it Canon is coming out with a new R5 Mark II and an R1. So, which all will cost way more money than it'd be crazy insane. R1, God, the R3 is $6,000. I don't even want to think what an R1 will cost. Sports ball it is, yes. Football, for obviously. Some small schools out of Oregon. Um, these would be like in the second smallest schools classification. This is the team in the black had a jamboree last weekend, but otherwise this is opening night for football season for schools here. I was covering two different schools in two different locations in the county tonight, so this was the first school I covered about a quarter and a half at. And then in a little bit I'll be switching over to the other school, although I might wait and edit those tomorrow. The team in the yellow won 42-0. Yeah, I would. That $7,500 out. Yeah, that would make sense. Uh, you're editing football too, huh? Are you a sports photographer or videographer or ooh, that's better. Oh, there's the ball. Super. Yeah. Whew. Yeah, Friday's football here. Yesterday I had soccer and volleyball. Tomorrow is cross country. Sunday, Monday, nothing. And then, like, all the schools are playing, like, everything under the sun on Tuesday. It's ridiculous. And everybody wants me to shoot anything at everything, and it's just me. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But I need to up my shutter speed. Okay. Enough. This was a rough game to watch. Yeah, it just Gervais, the yellow team, was very dominating in this game. Yeah, that's what I'm shooting with is a 70 to 200 2.8. It is the EF lens, not the RF. I just have an adapter. I can't afford right now the RF version of the lens. My primary business actually is real estate portraits. That's where I get most of my income from, and so that's what I invested in for RF lenses on my R5, and then just got spent the $100 or whatever for the adapter, so I can use the 70 to 200, which I don't really use much anyways, just for soccer and football really. So it's a good lens though. Yeah, yeah, that was the thing. With the I have a 60 Mark II as well, so I have a 16 to 35 and a 28 to 70 for that, plus the 70 to 200. And then I just ended up getting the RF lenses for the R5. That way, I'm fully set up on two different cameras for work. So if something happens to one of my cameras or one of my lenses, I can switch over to the other format, no problem, and still work. Um, but like the sports, the telephoto lens 7200 was a not a necessity to have to function for my business. So that is why I stay with the converter. But yeah, I noticed I tried initially with the 16 to 35 to use it with the converter, and my pictures were just really messed up. So I scrounged for an RF 15 to 35. Um, at the time, those were super hard to find. So it was kind of one of those. Found one, bought it. Didn't have the money necessarily to buy it, but I was at the time when just didn't know when it was going to be back in stock. But I absolutely love that lens. And then I use my RF 24 to 70 quite a bit for portraits. What is going on over there? Okay. Okay, that didn't do much. Yeah, oh, yeah, doing this has been a nice break. I've been shooting a lot of real estate lately, but, when I wanted to get into photography, real estate photography was not what sucks. I didn't think, hey, yeah, real estate photography, but, it pays the bills, most of my bills, and, I get to see some pretty cool homes, and, I set my own schedule, I get to travel a little bit for it, and, this breaks up the monotony a little bit. Um, the kids and their families really like this. I don't charge for my, so I should clarify. I don't charge the families, the schools, and the kids to, use my photos for personal use. If a news media outlet wants my stuff, I do make them buy them from me, because they're essentially using them for commercial purposes. But, the kids, I just want them to have something to, family members to have something to remember this. So, and it, adds a little something to my portfolio. So, which I don't know what I'm ever going to do with. I just kind of am here in my own little la la land, I guess. Of, ooh. Ooh. All right, kid. Oops. Okay. Oh man, a few years ago I got a great photo of this kid. Like, you think your stereotypical Heisman Trophy pose. Totally got that photo. Loved it. Entered it in the fair, got first place. I was super excited. Yes. Yeah. Um, I could easily charge. Um, I know I could. A lot of families and kids here that are low income. So, it's kind of one of those that I could, but should I? At the same time, doing this has actually brought me business. Um, I have gotten senior portraits, family portraits, that kind of stuff from doing this, getting my name out. So, oh, you're losing the ball, buddy. Um, yeah, not dating myself. So digital really wasn't a thing till after I graduated high school. I mean, it was, but um, it was pretty much like elite only type of people. Um, and I mean, like DSLRs pretty much were. I mean, they were like 2, 3 megapixel DSLRs. Pretty much news people owned them, and that was it. My senior year of high school, my club soccer team, they had a guy come out that had a digital SLR that took pictures at the games, and that's what we did instead of your typical team photo and then you standing there with the ball. Um, One of the parents took a team photo, and then we would buy whatever this guy shot of us, and I thought that was really neat, and wished I had that opportunity to have that earlier in my youth career. And so that's kind of where I come from with this, is being able to provide this for the kids as well. I hadn't done this since 2019, and then fall of 2019, and then COVID hit. And then, so pretty much everybody that was like a freshman last time I did this, they've all graduated. And I hit up some volleyball and soccer yesterday, and I posted it, and just the feedback within just the past 12 hours has been ridiculous. Um, and people are just excited to see this, and that's what makes me happy. So, okay, I'm not going to have the energy to edit the other school's photos. I may sort through them and pick my collection now. I know, I gotta finish these first. I've got, another 13, 14 photos. I had a big real estate project that I was working on yesterday, and I stopped working on it to go shoot sports. And then came back and spent all night editing real estate photos and getting Matterport tours done. And so I didn't get to edit yesterday's sports until today. I'm kind of edited out. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, okay. My sister married a British guy, and it's funny as how she loves everything British, soccer, football, association football, and British everything. And he loves everything American. He loves country music. He loves American football. He hates soccer. It's kind of funny the dynamic between the two of them. Uh, do, do, do. Okay, do. Yes. The sun is down. Ooh, that won't last too much longer. It'll be different 2 weeks from now, even. They replaced the lights here several years ago. So the lighting is, it's not great, but by standards that it used to be, it is excellent lighting. Much easier to shoot than it used to be. Tillamook, they just updated the lighting last year, and it's just, I haven't edited those yet under the lights, but I suspect it will be a heck of a lot nicer. There are the old lights that you don't notice it unless you're taking pictures that would flicker. So you'd be the same person, and one photo it's really bright, the next photo it's like dark as hell. Um, anyway, these are much better lights, and there's no dead spots on the field. That was the other thing. I like this field and up at Tillamook, the dead spots with lights. Oh, really? Yeah, I was only running at let's see here. This I shot like at 1,000 ISO. Tillamook I got up to 3,200 today for ISO. I've got to get used to my R5 for shooting sports because I've been doing real estate where I don't need a high ISO. Um, but at my old cameras, I had lower end Canons. I had a 70D, a 20D, and a 70 to 70D, and then a 6D Mark II, and they start to get way too noisy if you pump up the ISO too much. So I've been. I know this sounds weird. Like I'm so used to old film and digital that just gets so noisy at that higher ISO. Okay. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's what I've heard about the R5 is it does well with the noise up to a certain point. Um, yeah. Oh, A1, huh? Yeah. When I went to buy my mirrorless, I was looking at the high end A7 or the Canon R5. Uh, I ended up going with the Canon R5 just because I was familiar with I don't know what you call it, the operating system basically of Canon. I was just more comfortable using it because that's what I've been using since 19 since like 2003, whenever the original digital Rebel came out. Um, it's like 2003, I think. So 18, 17 years I'd been using that. Yep. So, um, but yeah, no, Sony, their higher end cameras are nice. Nikon digital mirrorless seem to be nice. I think the biggest thing is people. Yes, the um, that's like the thing. The A7 is kind of polarized. Some people really like it. Some people don't. Um, I have a friend that was like me, just Canon for years. Went to the A7, hated it, came back to Canon, and now is going up to a higher Sony over the whatever the new A7 is. The new A7's like a A7 IV, A7 V or something. Anyway, they got the A1 or I don't know, whatever you have, I think, and um, I don't know. It's hard. Like Canon, people get like a Canon Rebel T7, and that camera sucks, and I can say that because I've used it. And people will judge all of Canon's digital line based off of that, and it's hard because I've used various versions of the Canon Digital Rebel over the past 20 years, and I have yet to pick up a digital Rebel that I have halfway enjoyed. Which is odd. Is I started on SLRs. I started with a Canon Rebel. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. I would always tell people is splurge on the extra money on the, if you go with DSLR, splurge on the, 80D, 90D, or whatever, or buy a used version of that to get it down to the same price. Um, at a minimum, go with that next step up. And when I got my 20D in 2004 or 2005, um, that was like the big thing. My parents got it for me for a graduation gift, and you know, it was back and forth about, I knew it was a lot of money, but having used the Digital Rebel in college with the newspaper and then borrowed the 10D from a friend, I knew I didn't want the Rebel. Um, So, the nice thing is I had Canon film cameras, SLRs, and lenses, so they didn't have to buy lenses or anything. They just had to buy the body. And I had that. I had. I still have that camera. I haven't pulled it out in a while, but I was using that camera up until 2017 or 2018. So that camera went everywhere with me. I got a job as a park ranger out of college. I was working at Olympic National Park and Yellowstone National Park, and yep. That camera, my boss, I did a lot of backcountry tours. Yeah, I got started with like actual photography training in the year 2000. I was in high school, signed up for journalism, and they needed people to take pictures, and so that's kind of how I got in. Yep, yep. So I learned my photography all on film. I learned how to develop. You going to bed? Okay, good night. Um, yeah, so I learned how to shoot on film. I learned how to develop my film by hand, print it by hand, and then that ended up landing me a job working in a photo lab printing um, stuff. So my grandfather was the photographer in the family, so I learned a lot from him as well. But that's cool. You're able to keep your family business going. Okay, let me see. Um, let me. Man. Oh, this here. How did Tillamook won 45 to 20 today against Marshfield. Marshfield was the 2021 4A champion. Let's see here. They still have the Seaside game going. Ooh. Oh, Connie plays tomorrow. Anyway, this takes a while to rendered. Computer's from 2019, which it's actually pretty. It's not a gutless wonder like my last one, so I just ask a lot of it. I forget that I'm streaming and I am processing photos, and it is a laptop, not a desktop, so I just can't justify spending yeah. I mean, this is hands down, even though this is a 2019 um, laptop, this is hands down like a huge jump from what I had before. My first Mac I bought for photo editing in 2012, I bought like the bare minimum, and oh my god, that was such a bad idea. So when I went to upgrade, I was like, I'm gonna go all out, and the only thing I didn't do was get a bigger hard drive, but I maxed out the processor and the RAM and everything, and I regret not maxing out the hard drive or getting a bigger hard drive. But with what I spent on this, I can't justify buying a new computer right now. Um, and I got a laptop as well. That was the other thing, is because I travel for work, I need I needed a mobile computer. But I have thought about getting a Mac Studio, but I just can't justify paying $5,000 or $6,000 for the specs that I want. In my field, doing the real estate, a lot of people outsource, and I just sometimes will do that, but I'm kind of weird. I like to edit my own photos. I've had too many quality control issues outsourcing my photos that I'm just like, yeah, no. But then it goes back to me working, high school and college. I worked in a photo lab, and so I'm used to editing my own work. Alright, I at least go through to look I'm probably not going to have the energy to edit these, but I could at least go through and just kind of get a general idea of what I took. Software, so what I'm using right now is Lightroom Classic, Adobe Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom Classic. So, like, when I do HDR photos, I use a program that isn't made anymore. But for this kind of editing, I use Adobe Lightroom Classic, and there is a difference between Lightroom and Lightroom Classic. I don't like using the Lightroom. So, sometimes I'll pull stuff into Photoshop, but that did not come out. I know that's for the other team. This is when I first got there. Shooting between players, apparently. Yeah, let me here. I'll give you a open recent. I can pull up cause I was here, same place yesterday during the day. Um, yeah, yeah, Lightroom, the original is like a mobile app, and that's a good way to describe it. So, anyway, oh, it's rainy and cloudy, so never mind. Um, anyway, so this is the same field yesterday, but you can't see the mountains. But the fun thing I like to point out is it's not real, can't really see it real well here, but this right in here, this is a blimp hangar from the 1940s. It used to be part of a naval air base in Tillamook. And then you can't see it because of the trees, but it says Air Museum. And now they house old historical airplanes and a museum on the World War II. So that's really cool. But yeah, we've got a coastal range up in here. And then over here, you'll see the pillars from the other hangar that burned down in 93, 92 or 93. Yeah, and so it's all wooden made. So yeah, the minute that one over there lit, yeah, it was a goner. So, let's see here. Oh, volleyball. I was kind of moving back and forth there. All right. Yada yada yada. Okay. Yes, I did capture all of these. So, where am I? Yeah, so the soccer and the volleyball I just had up on my screen I took yesterday. And then the football photos that I'm working on now, I took those tonight. Oops. So, but yeah, here's that air museum right here that I was pointing out to you, the daytime photos. Yeah, and that was a total difference in the weather, 24 hours basically. Okay. And the field here and the lighting is all brand new. They actually had to play pretty much all of their games last year away because they were installing a new field and a new track. It hadn't been replaced in like 15 years. It was ridiculous. It was in very poor condition. Um, I mean, I know it sounds silly, but I spend my time roaming on the track to take pictures, and yeah, uh, it's definitely more comfortable hanging out on the track. Um, anyway, the team in the black is the home team, and they won 42-20. And I gotta figure out how to avoid this. Oh, I was just messing with my camera. Poor kid. Yeah, this guy ran onto the field. Um, so, uh, ineligible receiver. Getting ejected from the game. Yes, it was very nice. Welcome back. I'm not going to be here too long. I did not focus that real well. Okay. Nothing but a little Lightroom can't fix. I turned on the electronic shutter on here, and I got a little carried away with the, as I call it, rapid fire. I don't even know what I'm looking at. That's kind of the problem I have with American football sometimes. It's just like point and shoot and hope you get something. Yeah, probably. I just, figured I'd repeat it for you. Okay. Ooh. Sorry, Juanita Cow, do not root for the guys in purple. I know it may be a habit for you, but we are not rooting for the people in the purple. Check over here on dude. What is this kid in the foreground doing? I use a Canon R5. Well, these photos were taken with Canon R5, but I also have a Canon 6D Mark II that I use. So, yesterday when I was shooting volleyball, I was shooting with my 6D Mark II. But the soccer game I shot yesterday, I used my R5. And then both the football games today I shot with my R5. I wanted to test stuff I hadn't used my R5 before for sports. So I was hoping to play around with some stuff. And then also test the waters with this facility has new field, new lighting. Sure, why not? Well, that was fine. This is what happens when you turn on the 20 frames per second on your camera. It's like watching a little flip book if my computer could keep up. I've been asking way too much of it lately. Okay. Anyway, I am so fading fast. This is ridiculous. Uh, oh, there we go. Okay, I can salvage that. I was lazy and stayed on the away team side of the field. There's a lot more action on the home stand side. It's kind of funny. Not funny. Funny. I don't know. Odd. Interesting. Fun. So, back when I worked a job where I supervised people, several of my subordinates, their kids, were playing today. So I ran into people I knew. In fact, one of their kids scored a touchdown. Yeah, so if you're saving up, so a good option to look into is a lightly used digital camera. You know, I'd personally recommend not going for the absolute cheapest model. I've been doing photography for 20 plus years, and I have found the cheapest line digital cameras tend to be very frustrating to use, even as a professional who uses them on a regular basis. I have people that in my life that I've told them don't buy the cheapest, and they do, and they just don't get it. And then I trade them out with one of my cameras, and it clicks. And I do have a range of not the lowest entry level, but I guess a mid-level entry level camera, and then I have a higher end pro cameras as well, and they're just in general easier to use, and you're going to get better quality pictures as well. So it gives you something to grow into. You'll want to find something that you're comfortable with, but I would stick to either a Sony, a Nikon, or a Canon. That's just from cameras that I've played with that are also going to be good quality cameras, generally speaking. And then a lot of camera manufacturers are going away from DSLRs and going to mirrorless cameras. So kind of keep that in mind. Fortunately, the mirrorless cameras have a higher price tag. But I'm finding the quality is there's quite a stark contrast in the quality as well, though, in a good way. The cat's taking over my husband's spot on the couch. He says, "Ha-ha." Don't ask me why I'm like totally opposite end of the field here. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking I was too lazy to walk 100 meters in the other direction again. This was one of those games where it was like back and forth, and I was just like, oh, yeah. Mirrorless are really nice. So, um, I, you know, I'm a Canon girl. My grandfather was a Nikon dude. Um, I got started with Canon on film. That's what I got for a graduation gift from high school. And then when digital came out, it became accessible to the average person. I stuck with Canon because I had compatible lenses. And then mirrorless came around and I switched to mirrorless and I stuck with Canon because I was used to the digital operating system. With that said, I absolutely despise Canon's digital Rebel line. And I know it for some people it works, but I personally hate those cameras. I don't find them easy to use and are really poor quality. But if that's in your price range and that works for you, go for it. But they have these new mirrorless cameras that are in that same line, essentially. I have not had a chance to play with them, but with how much mirrorless has improved upon the digital imprint, I would suspect that they would be a good entry level option as well. Yeah, um, I hadn't really thought of that. But which is funny though is I have started shooting film again because I kind of miss that film look. Um, so, um, yeah, uh, yeah, I can see where that's coming from. But yeah, Canon's got recently they've come out with some stuff like new mirrorless. It's like five, six, $700, which I mean for some people I know that's a lot of money, but that's a good option. I kind of steer. Oops, I don't want to develop. I kind of steer people towards like the $1,000 camera or more, or at least try to buy it used. Um, my big thing is being able to grow into the camera as well. I was helping a girl out, a woman, by no means a girl, but like as in youngin. She works with my neighbor, and she had a Rebel. It was, she disliked it, but I think it was more of a situation she had outgrown it. And so I was getting a little frustrated. So I sold her one of my older cameras that was a next step up, and that's helped her quite a bit. So those are, I guess, some things to think about is if you're going to be serious getting into photography is think of it as you're a growing child and you don't want to buy clothes that fit perfectly right now. You want to buy something you can grow into. But Nikon's got some good stuff out as well, and so does Sony. Um, I know Panasonic and Fujifilm make some economical mirrorless cameras, but I really haven't been impressed with what they're priced at and the quality of what the hell was I thinking shooting this? Um, with the price and quality that you get. I just haven't really been impressed with Fujifilm or Panasonic. Um, so I spend way too much time fidgeting with cameras and looking at camera gear. So Yeah, if you want good film aesthetic, let's start getting that heavy noise back once you hit like 1600 ISO. That's, that's one thing I don't really miss is, oh man. I mean, there's stuff like, some of these sports photographs, like, I don't know if I'd be able to get these. Like, I I'm trying to figure out like how I got these photos on film when I was in high school. I'm just it's ridiculous. I mean, Ilford I think is the only one that I know of that makes ISO 3200 film, but even then it's only a 1600 film that you can have them process, pushed or pulled or whatever to be processed for a 3200. Um, but like film now, your options really is only like standard. If you go to the grocery store, really your only options are 2 and 400, or 2 and 800, 2 and 400. Anyway, if you go to a specialty store, you can get, you can find ISO 100. I've found ISO 25, ISO 50, but you can occasionally find an 800 or 1600, and then that one black and white Ilford 3200. Otherwise, you got your film. Nowadays, your film options are so limited. Yeah. Okay. Shooting here. Shooting a bunch of football players. It's just weird. These guys look way bigger than the other game I was shooting. I don't know. Oh god. So I have 300 photos to sort through. Okay, you can do it. Oh, I am so glad the end zone is like a normal color. Their old field, this in here was all bright freaking yellow. Uh, it was just, oh god, it was awful. I didn't know why it was hard to shoot, but it was. It just was not pleasant at all. I'm glad they went with a much more neutral. Put the ball down. Put the ball down. Alright, there. And he made the extra point, in case you were wondering, or care. He did make the extra point. Okay. Yeah. Your camera's still a film camera. Ugh. Well, the funny thing is, I still use film. Actually, a film camera I used recently that I really like is a Kodak Motormatic 35. And I put a really cheap roll of black and white in there. It was like $5, and I got it because it was cheap, and I wanted to test the camera out. I didn't know if it actually worked or not. And I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a cheap, crappy roll of film for a cheap, crappy camera. Oh my god, it is. That roll of film was great. Can't even remember the name of the brand of the film, but it's from Ukraine and or Czech. Sorry, no, Czech Republic. It was from the Czech Republic, and the picture's really great. Um, I was just shocked, and I went and picked up more film, and one of the guys at the store that I bought it from was asking me about it because it was so cheap, and I managed to pull up some of the pictures to show him, and he's like, "Oh my god!" Uh, Thought I took him with an SLR. I'm like, nope. I took him with essentially a point and shoot camera, from the 1950s. Purple. Anyways, I'm one of those weirdos that I will buy antique cameras and put film in them and I try to use them. Um, ah, crap. I was hoping that'd come out. Okay, that's. Okay. And then the line people got in the way. That's okay. They were just doing their job. Yeah, I know. That's what I was like. Sure, why not? Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna diverge here. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see. Oops. I wanna go. Maybe in here? No, those are dual flash miter. Oh, anyway, so these are from the Motormatic. I don't know if you can see these real well. No. Oh, yeah, here. Yeah, I'll have to delete these here in a second, but I took this picture with a Kodak Brownie, box Brownie, that was released in 1911. With my great great grandmother's camera. And it takes 116 film. They don't make it anymore. So I Frankensteined a roll of 120 film, which they still make, and put it in there. And you can get about 4 frames on that 120 film in a box Brownie. It's like a Kodak Brownie Model 2A. No. Kodak Brownie 2A Model B is what it is. And yeah, this is what came out in a camera that was 113 years old, 112 years old. And then this is the other thing. Other picture. There is a leak in the light box from where the red see-through thing is to see your frames. So that's what this is here. And then I didn't know how to use the camera correctly, so I wasn't quite getting everything. But yeah, these are all from. Oops, this was taken with a different camera. Anyway, these were all with a camera from 110-year-old camera. Anyway, that's what I end up doing when I am like bored as all get out and want to. These were taken with my grandpa's Nikon, I believe. F2? Anyway, just thought I'd share what you see. Adventures of really old cameras. Okay, let's go back to oh crap, what am I doing? Yeah, I know, those were pretty cool. Like, because I mean, like, sometimes you'll get these old cameras, and I mean, yeah, technically the shutter works. Technically the advanced thing works, but does it actually work? Not necessarily. And I have a what do you call it? I have a twin lens reflex camera that, on a technicality, it works. The shutter releases. It can advance film, but for whatever reason, something's not working right, and I can't get images on it. It's not exposing the film. And then I have a Canon or Kodak Dualflex 2 that that's another twin lens reflex camera that it works. I'm getting pictures on it, but there's somewhere, and I don't know where it is, there's a leak in the light box or in the film box. So yes, on a technicality it works, but it's not really feasible to use the camera. Most of the pictures didn't come out. It's really fun to think about some of this old technology. Like, I've got a collection of Kodak box brownies, basically. I mean, literally, it is a box. And a lot of these cameras, it's a rotary shutter, where you literally flip a switch, and it just rotates a flat metal circular piece with a hole in it. And you have some of the Kodak brownies, you have like a small hole, medium hole, big hole. And then you have no choice in your shutter speed, but your aperture is small, medium, or large. And then, if you can call it an aperture, because it's not really an aperture in the sense that you or I would think of in modern camera technology. And then your shutter speed's like 1/30th of a second, 1/40th of a second. So it's ridiculously slow. And which makes it hard to buy film for them today. But yeah, and I mean, that's literally all you do is press a button, or press a button, hit a button and a lever, and it just, this circular piece of metal just rotates around and exposes the film. It is pretty crazy. Okay, so, yeah, it would, and I need to go through my film and find some and kind of get that jerry rigged to get back into to do that. I have thought about that. The other thing is, I want to go to some of these like state parks that are old military installations, like Fort Worden or Fort Flagler. or something up in Washington. I'd love to go do that and get some old photos doing that. So that, oh, these are some that I took back in May with that same Kodak Brownie. Um, so I did get, this is Fort Casey. And I took this picture, and I had a bunch of friends with me. I took this picture with this camera, and I got the film developed, and I showed it to one of the friends that was with me when we were, who was with me when I took this photo, and they thought this was a photo from the early 1900s. I'm like, no, 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 I just took this photo. So, I mean, it's kind of cool. And then I had, like I said, I've got some light exposure issues, but this is, Fort Casey again, and then the ferry, and then I didn't advance the film enough, but I thought that was kind of cool. So, film is fun. Let's see here. What is that? So this is that dual flex I was saying. I've got something going on, like light exposure into box or something, or fogging. But yeah, it's just really, I've got some sort of fogging going on with this camera that I'm just like, I don't get. But it technically works. Technically. This is the Motormatic that I said that I used a really cheap roll of film that I was like, whatever, I don't care. I just want to see if the camera works. And I actually really enjoyed the photos. They did not do really much of any adjustment at all to these images. That's. I didn't get this one printed in time because I don't live somewhere where I can print 35 millimeter easily. I'd have to drive like 2 hours. Wanted to print this for the fair, and I ended up not doing it. This guy right here just got done running a race. He was so proud of himself. Anyway, yeah, so that was a really fun camera to play with. Oh wait, I want to get rid of these first. And then, what else? What's another camera that I still have? Oh, I took these with a Hawkeye. They came out in like the 60s. And, yeah, it came out in the 60s. It's a little box. Not quite a box brownie, but, anyway, so these were kind of fun. Once again, a really slow shutter speed, so you get any kind of, like in this case, shake, and you notice it. But, oh god, it was fun using this. Okay, well, I do need to head to bed because I am exhausted. So, I hope you all have fun and stay out of trouble.